be known that in this week's episode of One Piece, a member of the Mink Tribe, who just so happens to be a dog, affectionately chewed on Brook's non-existent bony crotch. The Mink Tribe have a really funny way of showing their affection. It gets dangerously close to Molestationville. With that in mind, this week's episode of One Piece was pretty damn fantastic, as we got to hear the harrowing story of how Sanji and the remaining Straw Hat Pirates escaped from Dressrosa and went up against Big Mom and her massive singing ship, only to arrive at the island of Zou, which has seen much better days. The big thing about this episode, of course, is that Luffy is fully reunited with his crew sans Sanji. Brook even finally appears in this episode, being as ridiculous as an Afroed skeleton can be. I love the fact that they still continue to take these stereotypes of the Mink Tribe all the way to 11 when all of these dog minks just suddenly attack Brook because he's a skeleton. Dogs like bones. And I have to say, I truly felt it in my loins, if you know what I mean, when Brook was actually bit in the crotch. That has to suck, even if you're a skeleton. So Luffy and his friends are having a really great time with the Mink Tribe, partying it up, getting steadily drunk, and eating lots of delicious alligator meat. Zoro seems to be having kind of a bad time, mostly because he doesn't like all of the affection from the members of the Mink Tribe. They come across as basically just a bunch of lapdogs, some of which go into borderline furry territory. Carrot and Wanda, I'm looking at you. Not to mention the introduction of Tristan, the sexy squirrel nurse. My god, is this show turning me into a furry? The real heart of this episode is getting to learn how Sanji and his other half of the Straw Hat Pirates escaped from Dressrosa and went up against Big Mom's giant singing ship, as well as the return of some big characters, such as Capone. That's right, he returns. He's allied with Big Mom. You also have the return of Peckham's the Lion, not to mention Tamago himself, who is still one of the goofiest looking One Piece characters I've ever seen. Is that giant shell thing supposed to be like pants? Or like a diaper? What the hell does that thing do? Why does he have tea on the top of his head? Why am I even questioning that weird shit in One Piece? What's really funny is that Sanji is sort of left with all of the goofy members of the Straw Hats, like Chopper and Brook and Nami, and they always tend to freak out when things are going insane, which leads to a lot of great comedy. But when the Straw Hats finally start to work together, we get this fantastic scene where they're getting fired upon with all of these big weapons, and Chopper goes into his monster form, and he grabs Caesar Clown, and he turns him into like a human sack, and uses him to catch all of these projectiles, which he then throws up into the air, and Sanji just kicks his way up in this really awesome fashion, kicks the shit out of this thing, which sends all of these projectiles flying into the singing ship, practically sinking it. Even Nami plays an integral role in using her weather abilities to allow them to escape and make it to the island of Zou, where apparently they've been really good friends with the Mink Tribe. The problem is, as soon as they got to the island, some crazy shit started going down. But it looks like things are going to be okay now that the Straw Hats are here. Not only that, but apparently the Zou Island is ruled by two different people. They're known as the Dukes of the Mokomo Dukedom. One of them is Ino Arashi, otherwise known as Duke Dogstorm, which I think is a really funny translation of the name, and you know what? I don't mind saying it. It's a lot easier than saying Ino Arashi, and Duke Dogstorm just sounds awesome. He sounds like a goofy cartoon character from the 80s done by Hanna-Barbera, not to be outdone by the other ruler, Nekomamushi, who is some sort of cat. If you haven't figured it out yet, the rulers of Zou are a cat and a dog, which I think is very, very clever. He's also known as Master Cat Viper, which I don't know why his name translates out to that, but it sounds pretty kick-ass. So we're about to be introduced to the rulers of the Zou Kingdom, yet the story about the Straw Hats arriving on Zou is not over yet. We're going to pick that up in next week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? I got a lot of great laughs from this episode. I absolutely love the Mink Tribe. I love how incredibly unique they all are, and the fact that they all act like a bunch of house pets, where they just can't help themselves from wanting to be affectionate with humans, to the point where everybody reacts in a really funny way. I mean, there's just so much great imagery in this episode, which is just rife for laughs. I mean, just the image of Luffy eating meat with a giant panda chewing on his hat is freaking hilarious. Not to mention the introduction of just some really fantastic characters like Nekomamushi and Ino Arashi, Dogstorm and Master Cat Viper. Like I said, those names are starting to grow on me a little bit. I think they're pretty cool. And then we got that really great action scene, getting to see how Sanji and their group actually survived against Big Mom and her crew, which are just freaking crazy. And you know what? This is just the beginning. This arc is definitely going to be one of the weirdest arcs of One Piece, and that's always been one of my favorite things about the series, is how it always manages to be both badass and extremely goofy at the same time. And this episode definitely exemplified that, and so far the Zou arc is just completely blowing me away. Not to mention, we're about to have a big history lesson from the island of Zou. Aside from that, this was just a really pleasant episode of One Piece. Really exciting, lots of great funny moments, some kick-ass action, and a fantastic to-be-continued cliffhanger episode that will just make you want to see the next one in the One Piece series. There were some parts that were a little slower, but for the most part, this was just a really nice episode of One Piece. I really enjoyed it. As far as entertainment value goes, and all the new stuff that they're showing, this one was pretty fantastic. So check it out, One Piece fans. If any of you guys did watch this week's episode, why don't you tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? Do you have a favorite member of the Mink tribe? What do you think of these Mink guys? Do you think they're pretty interesting characters? I really love them. And what did you think of the whole backstory of Sanji kicking ass against Big Mom's ship? And what happened to Sanji? Let's try to keep those manga spoilers to a minimum for all those anime viewers out there, and make sure to tell me what you want to see from the upcoming arcs of One Piece. You guys are awesome. Thank you for watching this review. If you want to help support the channel, why don't you subscribe? Maybe hit the like button. Share this video with someone. You guys should also check out our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. You can check out links for it in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching. And as always, stay dandy, baby.